Okay, this morning we've got a very special lady addressing us. Her name is Erika Janutsch. And for those who do not know her, she's a new member of our church. Erika was born in England and she's the oldest of 3 children. She says they're completely different, all 3 of them. She moved to South Africa at the age of 14. She first did a degree in chemistry, so she's a clever girl, and then a degree in nursing, and has worked as a research analyst for a student Christian organization, where I believe that's where she met her husband. Yeah, no, just after that. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she had a well baby clinic as well. And she now works as a registered nurse at a retirement village. She's been married to Martin for 29 years, and they have 2 wonderful children, Jessica and Samuel. And Jessica has joined us this morning, and as you can see, Jessica's pregnant, so Erika's going to be a granny soon. So please welcome Erika to our podium. Thank you, Erika. We look forward to hearing from you today. So when Erika's finished, there will be some questions on the overhead, and then we're just going to sit together on our tables for about 20 minutes, and we're just going to have what we call table talk, and actually just discuss some of the things. So thank you, Erika.
Good morning, ladies. I think we nearly had a vote at our table whether we should have the talk or not, or just carry on and enjoying each other's company. That might have suited me. Lady competition time. Who has the most layers on? I've got 4. 4, yay. Okay, I was just thinking if this was a men's breakfast, half of them would sit here in T-shirts, and I think we're in good company today. It's lovely to see you all. Right. How many of you here are the mothers of daughters? Lots. How many are you the daughters of mothers? Trick question. Just testing. All right, we've got Mother's Day tomorrow, and I'm well aware that some of you may not be biological mothers here. In fact, when I met Martin, I became mother to a 10-year-old daughter. And when we went through our first Mother's Day, we'd only been married for 3 months. And I remember walking into the church with Martin. We were probably holding hands because you always hold hands when you're in your first year of marriage. And at the door, there was one of our young ladies with a basket of chocolates, giving them to all the mothers as they walked in. And as I walked through, she handed me, and Martin said, "Oh, no, she's not a mother." You know the saying, looks like a duck, sounds like a duck? I thought of that. And sometimes we think of Mother's Day as just for biological mothers, but I'm well aware here there's some ladies who may not have had children, some that might not have been a choice, but it's the way it is. Some of you are too young to have had children, and that's wonderful. Maybe one day you will. Some of you are adoptive mothers. Some of you may be spiritual mothers. But as a lady, God has given you a role to be a role model to other ladies and other women. So this is for everybody. So even if you've just got sons, does anyone just have sons here? Not at all. So there are a few of you. Well, some of these things we'll be talking about are valid for them as well. Right. One of my favorite go-to verses is from Proverbs 14, verse 1, and it says, "The wisest of women builds her house, but folly with her own hands tears it down." The wisest of women builds her house. What's that talking about? They're talking about bricklaying, interior decorating. No, this verse is talking about building the emotional structure of the house, building the family. And family can be anything. Before you have children, a married couple is a family. You are part of a family wherever you came from. That was part of my question, asking you who are daughters of mothers. We all belong to families. But ladies, we have a special task, and that is to build the emotional structure of our homes. In fact, I would say this is our superpower. You've all heard the adage, happy wife, happy life. Well, I think the Proverbs verse is far bigger than that, actually. It's saying that we have got the responsibility, and it's our privilege to be able to set the tone in our homes. So says, Proverbs 14 states it's the wisest of women who builds her house, who creates a sanctuary, that safe place, where individuals can thrive and relationships can grow and are nurtured. And this morning we're going to focus mostly on the mother-daughter relationship. And now I'm getting warm. And this is unbelievable because I've always got 4 layers of clothes on. Thank you. Thanks, Tanya. All right. I work in a really beautiful upmarket retirement village in Somerset West called the Somerset, and it's really, really lovely. And about 2 years ago, I was asked to step in and help with one of our new residents, a very difficult resident. Lynette had just recently moved in. This was about 2 years ago. She'd moved into the house, but the house had never been lived in. The house was owned by a trust, and it had stood empty for about 5 years. So whilst she was the first person in the home, no one had lived there before her. So you can imagine she moved in and problems quickly surfaced. The drains were blocked, so because of that the shower flooded, the gas stove wasn't working, the battery in the automated garage door had gone flat. And so in was sent a troop of contractors and suppliers and workmen to do it. And as quickly as they arrived, they all left. And they all refused to go back to that rude woman. And it turned out that Lynette had sworn at them, abused them, insulted them, and every one of them said, we're not going back to that woman. So, Sister Erika, can you go and visit? And when I saw her home was beautiful. Furnishings expensive, lavish. She was dressed beautifully. And I could see she was a woman of means, expensive taste, and she had the money to support her expensive taste. She'd been, as I listened to her story, I heard that she'd been dressed by some of South Africa's top fashion designers. She was personal friends with, is it Errol Arends? She moved in top socialite circles. She mixed with the rich and famous. But her husband had passed away about 2 years earlier, and now she was alone and moved into the retirement village. And as I listened to her, I listened to stories of 2 unhappy marriages. I heard that she had 4 children, but only had contact with one of them, and that was strained. It was a strained relationship. The person she was closest to was Margaret, the lady who looked after her and cleaned her house, and Margaret's husband, who used to drive for Lynette. They were on Lynette's payroll. They were the people closest to her. And while Lynette shared the story of her childhood, she recounted incidents of the most hideous abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse from her mother. And she recalled them. As she told me the stories, I could see physically how it affected her and how she was telling me those stories like they happened yesterday. And it struck me that at age 80, Lynette was still profoundly affected by the relationship that she had with her long-dead mother at age 80. And it was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. So, ladies, the bonds we have with our mothers and daughters, they are a given. The question is, what will those bonds look like? Will those bonds give safety and security? Will they give identity and freedom? Or will those bonds hold us captive in fear and unable to move on? Think of a kite. A kite is held on a string, a bond. But it's that very string that gives the kite, it makes it capable of soaring high. That's what gives the kite its freedom, that string. Think of a ship's anchor. It's a bond, but that holds the ship safe and secure when stormy waters come. Is that the kind of bonds that we want to be forming? Or are we going to have, like Lynette, are we going to have shackles that prevent us from forming relationships with people in our lives? Shackles that hold us back and prevent us from being our fullest self. Sorry. So ladies, don't underestimate your role. Moms truly make a difference. I was going to be the perfect mother. Hey, Jess. Was I? I was going to be the perfect mother. I'd always wanted to be a mother. And when I had my firstborn, my daughter, this was my deepest wishes fulfilled. I'd always wanted children. I was a qualified nurse and midwife. And I had a wonderful relationship with the Lord. So I had the winning formula. I'm a scientist. We had A, B, and C, therefore perfection. However, I'm sure you've all experienced this. When your darling baby is born, it doesn't take us long to realize that we are far from perfect. And that happened very, very quickly. In fact, I think I cried as much as Jessica cried in those first few months. And I realized that we can't do this alone. And the good news is that our job isn't to be the perfect mom. Trying to be the perfect mom of perfect children in an imperfect world is a recipe for disaster. We'll end up basket cases if we hold ourselves to those standards. But when we give birth to a daughter, or a son for those mothers, we also give birth to hopes and dreams. We envision them leading a healthy life. We envisage them pursuing dreams, careers, studies. We picture them falling in love and perhaps one day having a family of their own. And those are all good things, but that's what we picture for them. And I want you to think now, those of you who are in that stage of life, what is the highest hope that you have for your daughters? What is the highest hope that you have for your daughter? Or do you fear? Raising daughters in today's world is quite a fearful thing. The world's a very different place to when we grew up. So is the highest hope you have, is it that she has a successful career and that she is a success in all she does? Or as a Christian, is your greatest hope that she be a wife and a mother? In your mind, what does it look like? And I can see here that it's a very diverse group of ladies. So there isn't one picture of what, how can I say, that a godly daughter should look like. Because I can see there's many different people. You've all got, even very superficially, you wear different clothes. I see Gloria in a beautiful bright yellow, and then I see other people in their lovely subtle neutrals or blacks. We're all different. We have different tastes, different hopes, different dreams. But I can tell you, our daughters are bombarded with messages about the source and nature of a woman's worth. And as Christian women, even for us, we can be a bit confused as to what we think is what a godly young woman looks like. As I've just said, it might be that you think that our highest goal should be that they are a stay-at-home mom and a mother, a godly wife, maybe longer hair, just to make sure that we comply with what Corinthians says, skirts, long sleeves. We come from different backgrounds. We might have that picture in our mind. Some of you might think, no, we're living in a modern world. A successful young woman needs to be the CEO of a company. In fact, she might not even need to get married at all. Success is having education, a successful career. It can be very confusing, and when I started thinking about these things, I realized that even myself, and I've already raised a daughter, I wasn't clear on what I thought. So I'm challenging you to think of those things. Think through your thoughts and why you think them. And I want to suggest that neither caricature is a good one. We don't want to prepare our children, our daughters, just for motherhood. That's a wonderful goal, but not just for that. We live in a difficult world. We need to give our daughters every resource we can and prepare them for many different scenarios, many different possibilities in their lives. I spent last week with a lovely nurse from Zanin. Her husband died of cancer when he was 46. She raised her daughter alone. She didn't plan for that. She didn't know when she married him, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, that he would leave her so soon. We don't know that about our daughters' lives. We don't know what's going to happen. Prepare them as much as you can. But how can we as Christian mothers raise daughters to look beyond stereotypes and embrace the strength and dignity of her spiritual calling? And number one, I want to say, don't expect them to be like you. God has created them as unique individuals. I'm sure if we ask Tanya if all of her 4 daughters are the same, any of you who've got more than one children, you wonder, did they come from the same gene pool? Because they can be so vastly different, hey? I assumed that my children were going to be like me. For me, music was a big part of my growing up at school. I played the guitar, the recorder, I sang in choirs, I played the violin. So when my children started at school, the first thing I did was introduce myself to the music teacher and tell her, my children will be coming to you. It didn't take long before we realized that that wasn't their gifting. In fact, Jess, Jess would stand in the recorder group and all the little girls, and Jess was looking at the one next to her. It wasn't her thing. Samuel couldn't have been less interested in the choir. And I realized God had given them their own gifts. And now Jessica designs and draws 1,000,000 times better than I ever could. The Lord has given her unique things, and He's uniquely gifted your children. There's no magic formula to raise godly children. But I can tell you that my biggest advice is get into the Bible yourselves. Get into the Word yourself. Let God's Word change you, and your children will see that. Don't put yourself under the pressure of you have to do this and that and this. Let the Word of God change you from the inside out, and your children will see that, and they will see authentic Christian womanhood. And that will be what, and you pray for them, of course you do. Let that word change your life. They will see it. When I say live authentic lives in front of your children, don't be afraid of failure. We all fail. We all sin. Let your children see that as well. It's very hard to hold up a standard for a child and they see that they don't reach it. Let them see you fail. Let them see you struggle. Let them know that you have difficult times at work, but let them see how you resolve those things, how you confess your sin, how you move forward. And it will bring you closer together, and it shows them what a God of grace looks like. Third thing, get Christian influences in your home. Get other ladies who are different from you. Get people from other backgrounds in your home to get to know your daughters, to get to know your children. When I first had Jessica, I wanted to be everything to her. I wanted to meet every need. I thought I could. In my ignorance and innocence, I thought that I was going to be everything to her. You can never be everything to your daughter. But the Lord has put us in a community, and there's other ladies in this community that can speak into your daughter's lives. Can be a time in teenage years where your daughter may not feel comfortable coming to you. But wouldn't it be wonderful if there was other people in your life, in her life, that she can go to, that can help her through those times? And that's what I've experienced. I'm delighted that Jessica actually has a whole range of Christian friends, all different ages, who speak into her life and who minister to her and have helped her through difficult times, even when I couldn't. And I still love that. Don't be afraid to let your daughters go. Don't be afraid to let other people add to their life. In fact, create those situations. Create that sense of community in your home. Have different people. You never know who the Lord may use there. Focus on things of eternal significance. Focus on souls. Focus on relationships. Meet with Annette and see how you can be part of the missions team. When you go out for takeaways to McDonald's, see if your children won't set the same amount of money aside to give to missions so we can help in the church. Develop in them, promote in them a giving mindset, a mission mindset, that they're continually looking outwards. Our sister church in Paro, your children may have finished with games and jigsaw puzzles. Take them down there. I know one year as a family what we did, when my children were very small, we collected things for a crisis pregnancy clinic in Goodwood. And over the months leading up to Christmas, we bought things, baby things, and we went to deliver them. One year we supported a little orphanage in Malmesbury, and we bought things again for the children there and collected them. Develop a giving mindset in your children, model it, let them be a part of it. But have an eternal mindset. Don't just focus on here and now. It's a very individualistic culture we live in a moment, so we have to intentionally cultivate that for our children. Teach them the right way to view their bodies and minds. Teach them the right way to view their bodies and minds. Ladies, we live in quite a progressive culture here. I don't think we struggle so much with seeing women as less than men. But even in our own homes, sometimes we'll give our daughters the dishes to wash and let the boys do the rougher work outside. Don't unintentionally put our children into stereotypes, and especially when it comes to learning and academics, and especially when it comes to Bible reading. Ladies, we need to be biblically literate. We need to know our stuff. It's not just for men. We need to know our stuff. So let's help our daughter there. So that's the minds bit. Bodies. You know, shortly after we got married, I remember I was sitting with Martin one day. Again, we were probably holding hands. And he was looking at me intently. You know how you look at each other intently and you just find joy in each other. We were doing that. And I could see he wanted to say something. So I was waiting for the words of love and affirmation. And he said to me, "Has your nose always been like that? Or did you break it?" We all have our hang-ups, don't we, ladies? We all know the imperfections. Another little gem my husband said to me once. Please don't look at him funny tomorrow. He's actually very wonderful. I was getting ready for bed one evening and he said, "Sure, I didn't know someone so thin could wobble so much." Hey. Ladies, we know our imperfections, don't we? Don't put your baggage on your daughters. Be careful what you say to them. Be careful how you talk about yourself in front of them. And be careful what we say to them. Part of my training as a nurse, I worked in the eating disorders unit at Tara Hospital in Johannesburg. And you know how many young girls were in that unit because of words that someone had said. Not always meant unkindly, but those words were said, those words were internalized. So ladies, be very careful with your daughters. Something that you can say well-intentioned. Should you be having that extra muffin? Be careful. All right. Okay, and for those of you who've got small ones, I can see you over the table over here. I just want to encourage you that every age has got its joys and its challenges. Don't make the mistake of wanting to hurry on to the next stage. Sleeping through the night. Oh, I can't wait till we get to the next stage and I can sleep again. I can't wait until they're potty trained because the cost of nappies is driving me mad. I can't wait until the terrible twos are over. I can't wait until they can eat by themselves or walk. I can't wait till the teenage years are over. We can wish our children's lives away. We can miss the great and wonderful things of each stage. So actively look for them and appreciate them. I know it's hard. I've been there. Those seasons come and are over very quickly. And I promise you, it's just a moment between nappies and wedding dresses. Psalm 90 verse 12 says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom." Teach us to number our days. Our days are numbered, ladies. And do you know who wrote Psalm 90? No, who wrote most of the Psalms? David. He didn't write Psalm 90. Psalm 90 was written by Moses. It's the only psalm that Moses wrote. So it's also the oldest psalm. And because I'm always on about people taking verses out of context, you must never take a verse out of context. Always read what goes before it, what comes around it, and all the rest. So I'm going to read a few verses just around it. And I want you to listen to the time references. Time references about God, time references about man. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You return man to dust, and say, "Return, O children of man. For 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. You sweep them away as with a flood. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and is withered. For all our days pass away under your wrath. We bring our years to an end like a sigh. The years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength, 80. Yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. Who considers the power of your anger and the wrath according to the fear of you? So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days. In the opening verses, Moses marvels at God's eternal unchangeableness, and then he contrasts it with man's mortality. We are dust. Unlike God, we are not everlasting. We're mortal, and our lives are very, very brief. Life is really short. The whole of Scripture is quite clear on that. James 4 says that we're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanish. Psalm 39 describes our days as a mere breath. Job 7 says that our days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle. And the point is clear and we feel it. Next month, I'm turning 55. Even more telling for me is that Martin next month turns 69. When I met him, he was 39. Yes, he's changed. He was 39, and he celebrated his 40th birthday in our first year of marriage. And we went to the Zulek restaurant in Johannesburg, and I had creamed veal for supper, and it was wonderful. Then he turned 50, and we had 3 couples around, some of our closest friends in our church, and I made a lovely dinner, properly plated and served, and we had a lovely evening together. And then he turned 60, and we arranged a spitbraai at our house and it felt like half the church there, and had a wonderful time. And next month he turns 69, and next year he turns 70. The exact age mentioned in verse 10 of Psalm 90. Time flies by. And I'm sure the ladies who are in their 50s and 60s and 70s who are here, you understand that, don't you? You're with me on this. You've seen it. But those of you who are younger than that, you've got your whole lives before you and you don't feel like that, do you? When I was your age, I couldn't fathom that one day I would be mingling with 70-year-olds lying in a bed with a 70-year-old. We don't, do we? We can't imagine that. So bring the point home to yourself. Think about that, because what this psalm is saying, that even those younger ones amongst you, it's not too soon to get wise about time. Teach us to number our days, that we might get a heart of wisdom. God's word is very clear. Our life is short. So the time that we have to build into our daughters' lives, to build our homes, is actually very short. Doesn't feel like it when you are up at night, those long nights. Doesn't feel like it when you're changing, washing, going round in circles, but believe me, those days are short. So be intentional about how you spend your time. And now we're going to turn our focus to the other side, because as much as we need to number the days with our children, we need to number the days that we have with our mothers, because believe it or not, our mothers are not going to be there forever. We're going to look at the bonds we share with them. And the reason we do this is because, as I discussed with Lynette's story, the relationship you have with your mom shapes who you are. I've got a few questions, and Tanya will put these up for you later as well. Think about your mom. Think about your relationship with her. Do you want to be like her? Do you want to be the exact opposite of her? Do you blame her for all of your disappointments, rejections, and the way your life has gone? Do you rebel against everything she ever taught you? Perhaps you understand and appreciate her more now that you are a mother. I remember being a teenager, thinking that if I was the mother, I would just give me so much more freedom. And then I became a mother, and I realized and appreciated exactly what my mom had done. And I also realized what a thankless job sometimes being a mother is, and how little I had actually said thank you to my mother. So whatever your relationship with your mom is like right now, I urge you to number your days. I would love to be planning a Mother's Day lunch for my mother. I lost my mom 20 years ago. Tanya lost her mom last year. My mom's loss was unexpected. And I grieve the things we didn't share. I grieve the times that she didn't have with me. I grieve her not being able to see my children grow up. And I grieve some of the things that I didn't say to her. We had a good relationship, please don't get me wrong. But looking back, I do have regrets. I wished I'd shared a lot more with her. And so I urge you who still have mothers alive to do that. Don't have regrets. It's never too late to strengthen those bonds. And it's never too late to remodel those bonds. You may not have a great relationship with your mum. Many people don't. Work on those bonds. As long as you blame your mom for things, you're stuck. You're not going to move forward. You are shackled, and it will affect your relationships with other people. Look for ways to love and honor her. For some of you, it might be easy. For some of you, that might be a difficult thing to do. Ask the Lord to help you, how you can love and honor someone who you don't necessarily feel love for, who you don't necessarily respect or honor. But ask him to show you, ask him to give you the courage and the wisdom to do that, and to show appreciation and gratitude. You be the one to initiate it. You never know where the Lord may lead you. You never know how that relationship may change as you grow older. I work in a retirement village. I see all kinds of relationships. I see, again, Tanya mentioned it, I see old ladies left alone, abandoned by their children. I don't know all the backgrounds. I don't know all the stories, but I see the results. And ladies, maybe your mom doesn't deserve love on a human level. But we're bigger than that because we know the love of the Lord, and we can love because he first loved us. We can forgive because we know his forgiveness. So if there's those relationships in your life, use this Mother's Day to think of those things. It's not going to be a magic formula, but do it. Remember, love is an action. I also want to say that in the environment that I work in, very often a time comes when roles change and daughters have to start parenting. They take over the role of caregiver, decision maker, provider for their mothers. That happens too, and that can be a very, very special season of life. And I love seeing that in my care centre. I love seeing when daughters sacrificially give. And it is sacrificial. Many of them have got families of their own at home, and they take time to come and be a blessing to their mother. And it's the most wonderful thing to see. So take the time to honor Mom tomorrow. And I want, as you leave today, that you recognize your value, your worth, and your wonderful role as a woman chosen by God, as a daughter, as a mother, as a spiritual mother in the body of Christ. And I want you to think about using your superpower to build your home. And when you feel that those powers are depleted and you're failing, remember, he is all-powerful. You are not doing this alone. He gives you the resources to keep going. When you've told your children, when you've tried to teach your children something 100 times and they're still doing it wrong, and you feel like you're getting nowhere, let him take control. Keep on doing the right thing and ask him to fill in the gaps of our imperfections. When our days are stressed and busy and the weeks fly by and the years, or things don't happen according to our time scale, the way we want them to happen, remember that God is working from eternity for eternity. He is from everlasting to everlasting, and we have a place in his plan. And when relationships are difficult or challenging beyond our control, remember that he is the God that makes all things new. Thank you for your time.